My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces that night in the dimly lit Italian restaurant, the one we'd always called our spot. My husband, Mark, stared at me from across the table, his face paling as the candlelight flickered over what I'd thought was just his work team. But there she was, the woman from his late-night texts, her hand casually brushing his under the tablecloth, laughing at something he whispered. "Emily? What are you doing here?" he stammered, his voice cracking like thin ice. I didn't flinch. Instead, I raised my glass of water, because I hadn't even been seated yet, and let my voice carry just enough for the whole table to hear. "Happy birthday to me, everyone. And congratulations to Mark on his new priorities, like the secret apartment downtown or the business trips that weren't. It's all out in the open now." Before I tell you how my life unraveled thread by thread, until I was left holding nothing but the frayed ends, I want to gently ask you to subscribe to this channel and tap the like button. These stories are shared every day, and if you've ever loved deeply, lost painfully, or had to rebuild yourself from nothing, you're not alone here. Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact moment I should have seen the storm coming, but isn't that always how it goes? Hindsight is cruelly clear. My name is Emily Thompson, and 2 years ago I was 35, living what I thought was a solid, if slightly worn around the edges, life in a quiet suburb just outside Chicago. Glenview, to be exact, the kind of place where kids ride bikes until the streetlights come on, where everyone waves at the annual 4th of July parade, and where the biggest drama is usually who forgot to bring a side dish to the block party potluck. Mark and I had met in high school, back when he was the charming senior on the debate team and I was the junior yearbook editor who thought his crooked smile could fix anything. We dated through college, he at U of I studying pre-law, me at Northwestern for marketing, and somehow we made the long-distance thing work with late-night phone calls and weekend Amtrak rides. He proposed the summer after I graduated, down on one knee at Giovanni's patio under those twinkling fairy lights, the ring a tiny but perfect solitaire he'd saved for by bartending weekends. I said yes without hesitation. We got married in a small church in the city, honeymooned in Cancun on a budget, and settled into the rhythm of young adulthood like we were checking boxes on some invisible life plan. Fast forward 8 years. We had a mortgage on a 4-bedroom colonial with blue shutters, a golden retriever named Max who'd passed the year before, and our daughter Sophie, the absolute light of my world. She was 6 then, all gap-toothed grins and endless questions, obsessed with ballet, unicorns, and anything involving glitter. I worked full-time as a senior account manager at a mid-sized ad agency downtown, commuting on the Metro every morning with my iced coffee and podcast queue. Mark had made partner track at his law firm, specializing in corporate litigation, which meant long hours but also the kind of salary that let us breathe a little easier, private ballet lessons for Sophie, a cleaning lady twice a month, the occasional weekend getaway to Galena or Door County. On the outside we were fine. Better than fine. Instagram-worthy, even if I'd been the type to post more than the occasional family photo. But inside the house things had started to feel off. Not dramatic, not screaming fights in the kitchen off. More like a slow leak you don't notice until the basement floods. Mark was working later and later. He'd come home after Sophie was asleep, kiss my forehead distractedly, and collapse on the couch with his laptop, just to finish one more email. Intimacy had become sporadic, always initiated by me and often brushed off with, "I'm exhausted, babe. Tomorrow." Tomorrow rarely came. I told myself it was normal. Marriage ebbs and flows, right? Kids, careers, mortgages, they all take their toll. My mom friends at Sophie's school said the same things over coffee playdates. 7-year itch, but make it 8. Or wait till the promotion stress passes. So I pushed the unease down, focused on being the organized one, the one who kept the calendar, packed the lunches, remembered dentist appointments and parent-teacher conferences. I even started planning little surprises to reignite the spark. A new set of sheets, his favorite craft beer in the fridge, tickets to a Cubs game. He appreciated them, or at least said he did, but the distance remained. My 35th birthday was approaching in early October, the leaves just starting to turn that perfect Midwestern orange and red. I didn't want a big party, crowds make me anxious, but I did want something special. Just us. How about Giovanni's? I suggested one Tuesday night as we folded laundry side by side on the bed, the TV murmuring in the background. It had been ages since we'd been there, and the nostalgia felt like the perfect antidote to whatever rut we were in. Mark looked up from pairing socks, smiled that old smile. Giovanni's it is. I'll make the reservation. You deserve it, Em. I let myself get excited. I bought a new dress online. A deep green wrap style that hugged in all the right places and made me feel like the woman he'd fallen for. Not just mommy, in yoga pants. I booked a babysitter, my go-to teenager from down the street named Ava. I even got my nails done during lunch one day, a rare treat, choosing a subtle nude polish because Mark always said red was too much. The week of my birthday, though, the vibe shifted again. Mark was more glued to his phone than ever. At dinner, he'd angle the screen away when I glanced over, typing rapid-fire responses with a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. Who's blowing up your phone? Ide te haza legally. Work group chat, he'd say, or just fantasy football trash talk. Sophie noticed too. Daddy, why are you always looking at your rectangle? She'd ask, and he'd ruffle her hair, promise to play later. Later never quite materialized. Then came the day of text. I was at Sophie's ballet recital, sitting in the folding chairs of the community center gym that smelled faintly of floor wax and little girl sweat. She was beaming in her pink leotard and tutu, waiting for her group's turn to perform a simple routine to A Million Dreams. My phone buzzed during the younger class's dance. I pulled it out expecting a good luck tonight message from Mark, maybe even flowers delivered to the office like he used to do. Instead, *Hey babe. Really sorry, but I have to cancel dinner tonight. Emergency blew up on the Henderson case. Whole team pulling an all-nighter. Rain check for the weekend? Love you. No emoji. No exclamation point. Just flat words that landed like a punch to the gut. I stared at the screen while 3-year-olds twirled around me, applause rippling through the room. Sophie ran over afterward, breathless and proud. Did you see me, Mommy? I didn't forget the arms. I scooped her up, buried my face in her curls to hide the sting in my eyes. You were perfect, baby. Absolutely perfect. That night, after Ava had been paid and Sophie was tucked in with her stuffed unicorn clutched tight, I sat in the kitchen with a glass of wine and the silence pressing in. Mark wasn't home yet, of course he wasn't. The house felt too big, too empty. Max would have sensed my mood and rested his head on my lap, but he was gone, and now Mark felt gone too. I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Our wedding, Sophie's first birthday, last Christmas when we'd driven to Wisconsin to cut down our own tree. When had his eyes stopped looking at me like I was the only person in the room. Suspicion crept in like fog off Lake Michigan. I tried to shake it, paranoia, midlife crisis nonsense, but it clung. Mark's iPad was on the counter charging. He used the same password for everything. 10142010, our wedding date. I don't know what possessed me, maybe the wine, maybe the hurt, but I opened it. Safari was still on his email tab. At the top, a confirmation from Giovanni's. Reservation for 7 p.m. Party of 2. Name Mark Thompson. Special instructions. Corner booth if possible. My breath caught. Not canceled. Moved? Or replaced? I scrolled further. Bank app notifications. Charges at places I didn't recognize. A boutique called Intimate Whispers. A hotel bar downtown. Flowers delivered last month to an address that wasn't ours. And then the Messages app synced from his phone. A contact labeled simply L. The thread went back 4 months. The text started innocently enough, work-related, coordinating case files. But they evolved quickly. Flirty emojis. Inside jokes. Thinking about you in that red dress. Photos. Her in lingerie I'd never seen. Him shirtless after a late gym session. Plans for drinks that turned into overnights. Her name was Laura Kensington, 28. A paralegal who'd started at the firm right after passing the bar. I'd met her once, briefly, At the firm holiday party last December. Pretty confident, the kind of woman who commands attention without trying. I read until I couldn't anymore, tears blurring the screen. How many times had he kissed me goodnight while planning to see her the next day? How many I love yous were lies? Sophie's bedroom door creaked. She'd had a nightmare. And I wiped my face frantically, went to her, held her until she fell back asleep. Then I sat on the edge of her bed in the glow of her nightlight and let the rage settle in beside the grief. This was my birthday, the one night I'd asked for. And he was taking her to our restaurant. I looked at the clock, 6:15. If I left now, I don't remember deciding. I just moved. Changed into the green dress, heels, the red lipstick I'd bought on impulse. Texted Ava in a panic. Could she come back for a few hours? She said yes, bless her. Kissed Sophie's forehead, whispered I'd be home soon. The drive into the city felt like a dream sequence. Rain starting to fall, wipers swishing. Radio playing songs that all suddenly seemed to be about heartbreak. I parked 2 blocks away so he wouldn't spot my SUV. Giovanni's hadn't changed. Same red and white check tablecloths, same Sinatra crooning softly, same smell of garlic and fresh basil that used to make my mouth water. The hostess smiled. Do you have a reservation? I shook my head. I'm meeting someone. My eyes scanned the room and landed on the corner booth. There he was, in the suit I'd helped pick out last month, tie loose in just the way she apparently liked it. Laura across from him, radiant in that red dress, laughing with her head tilted back. But they weren't alone. 3 other people from the firm. His boss, Mr. Hargrove, 2 associates, and Hargrove's wife. A work dinner? Confusion slammed into anger. The reservation email said party of 2. Had he expanded it last minute as cover? Or was the whole emergency a lie from the start? I walked toward them, heels clicking on the tile, heart pounding so loud I was sure they could hear it. Mark saw me first. His glass paused halfway to his mouth. Emily. The table quieted. Laura's smile faltered. Hargrove raised an eyebrow. I stopped at the edge of the booth, raindrops still clinging to my hair. Hi everyone. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to wish my husband a lovely evening, since he had to cancel our birthday dinner for this very important work emergency. My voice was steady, louder than I expected. A few nearby tables glanced over. Mark stood halfway. Let's talk outside. No need, I said, pulling out my phone. I'd screenshot the worst of the texts on the drive, hands shaking. I held it up. Not for them to read details, but enough for the glow to catch attention. I found out tonight why he's been so busy. Messages to Laura here. Hotel receipts. The apartment he rented on the side. So happy birthday to me, right? Gasps. Hargrove's wife covered her mouth. One associate looked like he wanted to disappear. Laura went pale, eyes darting to Mark. You said you were separated. I said it was complicated. Mark muttered, face crimson. Complicated. I laughed, sharp and bitter. We have a 6-year-old daughter asleep at home right now, waiting for her daddy to read her a bedtime story. That's not complicated, that's a lie. The restaurant had gone quieter, conversations hushed. I didn't care. Enjoy your dinner, everyone. Mark, you'll be hearing from my lawyer. I turned and walked out, head high, tears only starting once I hit the sidewalk and the rain hid them. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Mark tried calling from the parking lot. I ignored it. Ava texted that Sophie was fine, still asleep. I drove to my sister Claire's condo in the city instead of going home. Claire opened the door in pajamas, took one look at me, and pulled me into a hug that smelled like chamomile tea and safety. I cried until I couldn't anymore, told her everything. She made up the guest room, poured wine, and said all the right things. He's an idiot. You're better than this. We'll get through it. The next weeks blurred into survival mode. Mark came home eventually that night, found the house empty except for a note. Asterisk staying with Claire. Do not come here. Asterisk he bombarded me with texts, apologies, excuses, promises. It was a mistake. I was flattered. Midlife crisis. I love you, Please let's fix this. I didn't respond. Instead, I met with the divorce attorney Rita Gonzalez, recommended by a coworker whose sister had used her. Rita was fierce, sharp Bob, sharper mind. Over coffee in her high-rise office, she reviewed the screenshots, bank statements, reservation confirmations I'd gathered in a manic 3 a.m. evidence folder. "You've got him cold," she said bluntly. "Adultery in Illinois isn't required for no fault, but this strengthens your position on assets, custody, support. We'll file Monday." Work became my lifeline. I threw myself into a new campaign for a women's wellness brand. Ironic, right? And nailed the pitch. Karen, my boss, noticed the dark circles but also the fire. "Whatever you're channeling, keep it coming," she said after I presented. "This is your best work yet." I got a bonus, a raise, and flexible hours to handle lawyer meetings and Sophie drop-offs. Sophie was the hardest part. We told her together, in the neutral territory of a park playground, that Mommy and Daddy weren't going to live together anymore. But we both loved her more than anything. She cried, asked if it was her fault, clung to my leg. I held her and promised it wasn't, that we'd still be a family, just different. Mark got weekends at first, supervised because I didn't trust his judgment anymore. Seeing him pick her up in his newly rented bachelor pad downtown gutted me every time. But Sophie came back talking about pancakes and movie nights, so I swallowed it. Laura quit the firm 2 weeks after the restaurant scene. Rumor was Hargrove gave Mark an ultimatum. Her or his partnership track. Mark chose the job, of course. His reputation took a hit anyway. Legal circles are small and stories travel. He looked gaunt when I saw him at custody exchanges, the charm dimmed. I moved out in November, into a bright 2-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park with big windows and a tiny balcony. Sophie and I painted her room lavender, hung fairy lights, made it ours. I started therapy, once a week with Dr. Patel, who helped me unpack years of people-pleasing and self-doubt. "You tied your worth to being the perfect wife," she said gently. "Now you get to discover who Emily is on her own." And I did slowly. I joined a running group that met at dawn along the lakefront, the cold air burning my lungs in the best way. I took Sophie to ballet and stayed to watch, applauding louder than anyone. I reconnected with friends I'd let drift. Brunches turned into wine nights, turned into confessions about our own marriages, our fears, our dreams we'd shelved. Jess, my college roommate, became my rock. "You're blooming," she said one night over margaritas. Like actually glowing. Screw Mark. Dating felt impossible at first. Too raw. But by spring, a colleague named Tom, divorced dad, kind eyes, great laugh, asked me for coffee after a late meeting. We talked for 3 hours. He didn't push, just listen when I mentioned the divorce, shared his own story. Coffee turned into dinners, into meeting Sophie for ice cream. He brought her a unicorn sticker book on their second hangout. She approved. The divorce finalized in July, almost a year after that fateful birthday. In the courtroom, Mark looked defeated in his suit, agreeing to everything Rita negotiated. Joint custody with me as primary, the house sold and proceeds split. I got a larger share because of the infidelity evidence, generous child support, alimony for 3 years. As we signed the papers, he tried one last time. I'm so sorry. I lost the best thing I ever had. I met his eyes, felt nothing but pity and relief. Yes, you did. Walking out into the summer sunshine, Sophie waiting with Claire outside holding a balloon bouquet, I felt the weight lift. We celebrated that night with pizza on the balcony, Sophie chattering about camp, Tom texting to check in. I turned 36 in October again, exactly 1 year later, and this time the day was mine. Sophie and I flew to Disney World, just us. We rode Space Mountain until we were dizzy, met every princess, ate Mickey waffles for breakfast. At night, watching fireworks over the castle, Sophie leaned against me and whispered, "This is the best birthday ever, Mommy." I kissed the top of her head. "Mine too, baby." Now, looking back from this side of the rubble, I see it wasn't just a marriage that ended, it was an old version of me. The one who dimmed herself to keep the peace, who measured her value by how well she held everything together for everyone else. That night at Giovanni's, Uninvited and Unapologetic, I exposed more than Mark's affair. I exposed my own strength, the fire I'd buried under years of fine. If you're watching this hurting in your own quiet way, maybe staring at a text that doesn't add up, or crying in your car after drop-off, or wondering if this is as good as it gets, please hear me. The pain is real and it's brutal. But on the other side is a life you build for you. Not perfect, not without lonely nights or hard days, but authentic. Yours. You deserve to take up space. You deserve corner booths and fairy lights and fireworks. You deserve to arrive uninvited to your own rebirth and say without shaking, "This is mine now." Thank you for listening. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs it. And remember, you're not alone here.